offline and online people. So this is an orientation for PSIR, optional primarily. And see, a couple of things as far as the orientation is concerned. We don't get into the depth of the subject because that is best left for the classes. But largely as to what is the importance of an optional subject, and also with respect to, what are things that you can keep in mind while picking up any optional. So this is not to make you pick up PSIR or any optional. This is for you to realize what kind of optional would be the best for you, right? And this decision is solely yours, so that once you have a regret later on, it's your personal regret, not the regret of the faculty, right? So anyway, same goes for online people. If you have doubts, clarifications, please seek clarifications, whatever you have. First up is the importance of an optional subject. I think for any aspirant, it is extremely important to understand that in most cases, optional decides your rank, okay? In fact, not just rank, I would say the selection in itself is something that the optional subject decides. So firstly, the selection, and secondly, the most important factor, rank. I mean, of course, the interview this time was very crucial and critical for deciding the rank based on the marks that we saw. That is true, but still, optional is always a very important criteria. That's one thing. So beyond the fact that the optional decides your rank, if you look at the entire syllabus, you have 4 GS papers worth 250 marks, and you have one essay paper worth 250 marks. This is GS, and this is your essay paper. And then you have 500 marks worth optional paper. 2 papers, 2 into 250. That is. So out of 1750 marks, you can very well understand that 500 marks are devoted to optional. In fact, then you add also how much? 275 for what? The interview. So this comes out to 1750 marks. Oh, sorry. Natural tendency of writing rupees always. 1750 marks. So out of which 500, that is almost 30%, is devoted to your optional paper. And see, in the GS papers now, coming to an important aspect, in the GS papers, marks usually are along the same lines. It's very difficult to get very high marks in GS paper. Of course, I'll come to that point also. What can be a deciding factor or differentiating factor could of course be essay. Without a doubt, essay is one very critical factor. And second is the ethics paper. In these papers, you can have huge difference in score, which is true. But otherwise, GS paper scores largely remain the same, not much of a difference. So the entire focus shifts on that unique factor, which is what? Your optional paper. This is where the scores can vary. Somebody can get a 220 and somebody can get a 290. So you see this gap of 70 marks, it cannot be covered in GS papers. Forget 70, you can't even go a 20 marks gap in GS paper. Because in most cases, people get almost similar marks, plus minus 10 marks. Somebody's GS1 is great, somebody's GS2 is great, somebody's GS3 is great. Yes, essay could be a factor where you can have roughly 20 marks of difference. This is possible in essay. And same goes for ethics. Ethics can also, sometimes if you're good, especially in the case studies aspect, then it can also give you 10 to 20 marks of gap. But still very difficult to compensate for the optional gap. So I think this is a reason why you have to, focus on the option right from the word go. Of course, initially, the earlier you start, the better it is. That is the idea for optional. Normally what happens is people focus on their GS first, then they cover their GS, and then once the GS is over, then they go on to start their optional. I think that is a wrong strategy, sadly. you can start your GS and optional at the same time. There is no problem whatsoever. Okay, that's one thing, very briefly. Then comes the second aspect, the pattern of optional. So, okay, we have some doubt. Color on screen is not visible. Let me see. Is it okay now, Leela? Okay, great. So, yes, as I was saying now, the pattern of optional. So, for any beginner aspirant, I'm sure you have seen your GS paper, the mains. If not, just to clarify, in your GS paper, the pattern is somewhat like this, that you have 10 questions worth 150 words each, and you have to attempt all of them, and all of them are 10 marks each. And then you have 10 questions which are to be written in under 250 words, and they are 15 marks each. This is a GS paper, standard set pattern since 2017. This has not been modified. Before 2017 we had a different kind of structure, 20 questions only, but every question was of 200 words. Okay, so you can see very well that the number of questions are fixed, the pattern is fixed, and you have to attempt all the questions, so nothing can be skipped. And that also means that if you look at it, we have to write around 4,000 words in total in 3 hours on 20 different topics. And let's say like a paper 1, for example, or a paper 3. Paper 1 of course has the advantage of, has the challenge of history, geography, Indian society, diverse subjects. And look at paper 3, economic, science and tech, disaster management, environment, internal security. So not only do you have to write 20 answers, but on different topics. So your brain has to keep on juggling between topics. That is a challenge. Paper 2 is slightly different because paper 2 has similar kind of topics, so it does not feel that different, and same goes for paper 4. But the challenge is this. Now let's come to the point of concern, which is our pattern for optional paper. So optional pattern is completely different. You have, so I'll take for paper 1, whatever optional you have, the pattern remains the same. Paper 1. Paper 1 will have 2 sections, section A and section B. Clear? Now, in section A, you have the first question, which has 5 sub-questions. Okay? And then you have question 2, which has 3 sub-questions, question 3, which has 3 sub-questions, and question 4, which has 3 sub-questions. Is this point clear? 4. Here exactly same. 5th question. How many sub-questions? 5. And the remaining, that is 6th, will have 3, 7th will have 3, and 8th will have 3. Okay. Now please pay attention to this. The point is, the first question of section A and the first question of section B, which is number 5, they both are mandatory to answer. So I'll just circle this. Let me use a contrasting color completely. This is mandatory, this is mandatory. These questions are worth 10 marks each. So 10 marks into 5, and each has to be in 150 words. So we have 50 marks here. Total paper is of how many marks? Paper 1, 250 marks. Same here, all these 5 questions, 10 marks each, into 5, 150 words each. So you have your 50 marks here, which is mandatory to attend, 50 marks here, which is mandatory to attend. 100 marks done. Now you have 3 different questions to choose from 6 questions. But the condition is 1 from each section is mandatory. 1 question done, 2nd question done. Now we have to write 3 more questions. Every question is worth 50 marks, 50 marks, 50 marks, 50, 50, 50. So what you have to do is pick and choose 1 from each side. So anyone so anyone would mean 50, anyone would mean 50. 200 done. Now 150 marks left, which you can choose from any of these 2. Okay, so last 50 marks, I'll say it can be from this side or this side, completely optional.
Only 1 question 50 marks. Anyone?
2. Okay, let me show you the paper itself. You will get an idea of what I am talking about. PSIR paper 1 for that matter. What year are we in? 2025 was the last one.
So can you just
Tell me.
do a little recap while you are showing the paper also?
Recap of?
Like a little recap. Like,
Sorry. Like what we discussed so far.
yeah, just a little recap. Just while you're at it, the actual paper.
Sorry, we took the GS paper. Paper 1. Okay, so this was last year's paper. So how many sections? 2 sections. Okay. Section A. Section A has how many questions? 5. A, B, C, D, E. 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks. These 5 are mandatory. 150 words. Done? Now we have one more section, which is section B. 5th question, mandatory. 5 sub questions, small ones. A, B, C, D, E. Clear? Okay, great. Now we have how many questions left? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. From there. So as I said, you have to choose 1 from each. Let's say I choose to write 2, question number 2. This means I'll choose to write A, B and C. See the marks. A 20 marks, B 15, C 15. Questions of 50 marks. Like here, if I have to place this, it would look somewhat like this. This is of 50 marks, but like this. This is 20, this is 15, and this is 15. So each question is of 50 marks total. There are 3 questions actually. And it's a 20 marker question, longer to write, and then 250 markers. Are you clear? Pick 1 from here, either 2, 3 or 4, 6, 7, 8, 1. This means here also same. And once you have written 4 questions, you can pick and choose the last question from any section, either this or this. Is the point clear?
Sir, I have to choose 2, 3, 4 only one, sir.
Yes.
And
2, 3, 4, 1 must be chosen.
1 must be chosen.
6, 7, 8, 1 must be chosen.
Okay.
Once we have chosen 1 from here, 1 from here, how many are done? 2 done. 2 we have to do anyway. 4 done. We have to have 5. 50 into 5. 5th question is left. How do we choose that? It's your choice. Either from here or from here. Clear? So let's say I have already chosen, for example, question 2 to write. And from here I chose question 8 to write. So I have now chosen to write 1, 5 which I was supposed to write, 2 and 8 was my choice. 1 is left. I can choose either from this or from this or this or this. So I can leave questions also. Are you clear? This is the advantage. But just to clarify, don't think that there is some hidden trick and ploy here, because The problem is that the first question contains almost the entire syllabus. So you can't actually skip anything completely. If you skip something and if it comes into the 1 A, B, C, D, E, that could be a problem. Okay? So at your own risk. If you want to skip something at a very large thing completely, then there is no problem. One question gone, okay. But skipping smaller things could be a problem because, for example, what you might understand better would be section B. Section B, we'll see the syllabus shortly, roughly, is more about things you know already, okay, in PSIR. So let's say explain the peasant movement, Dalit perspective, land reform, J&K, political landscape, NHRC. The entire syllabus has been covered here, various parts of the syllabus. So it's risky to leave anything, but yes, the advantage is you can simply choose whatever is a strong area, you can choose from that to answer and leave everything else. Are you clear? Is the pattern clear? So this is going to be the pattern. So yes, a lot depends on how you choose the question in your optional, not just PSIR, any optional. Are you clear? The skill lies in knowing your strength, reading the question properly, and in the first go saying, I will write this. Okay, because see, in GS paper you have to write anyway. There is no alternative. All 20 questions must be written. But here you have the option, pick the best that you're more comfortable in writing. Okay. So that is how the pattern is slightly different from what you see for GS paper. Clear? So in short, if I have to look like that, 3, 3, 6 and one more, let's say this, 3, 9, 5 and 5, total 19. 19 questions have to be written compared to the GS which has 20 questions. Okay, but here you have, so now let's write the optional paper also. 10 questions, 150 words, 10 marks each. Yes? Then six questions. Now, these are 15 marks each, 6 questions. And we have 3 questions which are what? 20 marks each. Before you write this, let me show you this as well. So you can see here, they have not given, look at the first question. Answer the following questions in about 150 words. Word limit is decided for this. Second question, 20 marks. B, 15 marks. C, 15 marks. Word limit, not mentioned. Are you clear? It is not mentioned. So ideally the expectation is following the same GS pattern, 250, 260 marks, words you can write, and here you can write 300 words, no problem. But I'll refrain from putting the words here because words are not mentioned. Okay, but expect that you can write around, so there is no problem. In GS paper, the problem is you have to write in under 250 words. But here we can write 275 words also, no problem. 220 also, depending on how you present your answer. Clear? So that is something of a breather and relief. This is how your optional looks like. Are you clear? Any doubt now? Yes, tell me, sir.
250 words you're telling, we are let's say 15 marker, you told like 250 words, right?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly. So can we think it of as like number of sites? Let's say for handwriting is big.
Number of sites, I'll tell you why we cannot think of it like this. It depends on your handwriting, right? Some people have a tendency of writing bigger font, keeping a lot of gaps. Some people write in closer font, smaller font size, lesser gap between sentences. So it would depend on you, right? Though I'll show you. So if your doubt, let me just, is this a GS? Okay. Same thing. QCAB, UPSC, optional. QCAB stands for question cum answer booklet. So this is what you get. Let me just see for once a moment. How is it showing 12.5 marks? Oh, GS paper 1. Okay, this is your optional QCAB. So this is what you get in your exam to write on. Okay, so you have your first group of questions. So see, they have mentioned here, question numbers 1 and 5 are compulsory. Out of remaining, 3 are to be attempted. Choosing at least 1 from each section. Clear? Okay. So how much space will you get? This is your 10 marker question, which is the first 5 questions. 1 full page and second full page. Are you clear? So you can say 2 sides. This is a space given to you. That's it. Within that space, you have to write these in 150 words only. It does not really matter. Let's say your font size is small and you don't keep a lot of gaps and your 150 words are over, say, here itself. No problem. Put a strike across the blank space. Are you clear? So for all the 5 questions, we have 2 sides to write. Now comes the larger question. So you have 2A, 20 marks. 1 full page, second full page, third full side, 3 sides. This is an older paper. So earlier they had a system of 20, 20, 10. Now they have 20, 15, 15. 3 sides to express yourself. Are we clear? So the expectation is that you write around 250 for 15 marker, 300 words for 20 marker. That's it, which can be managed. So you don't have too much of space also to keep on writing long stories. Space is limited. And if you have at any point of time left some space, please strike. Clear?
Even though if we strike, let's say 250 is over in 2 sides only, sir. We strike off the third side. Then also it is considered as a good answer only according to exam.
Exactly. It depends on the content. It completely depends on the content. And also the spacing is given in such a fashion that people with different font sizes can fill it in properly. Some people, especially in GS, so here the space constraint is there because here people don't normally draw flowcharts and stuff, but in GS, because you have to write too much and on different topics, so people sometimes tend to draw flowcharts and diagrams. Why? Because it explains the idea in lesser time, right? You can do the same thing here as well. It does not really matter. I think this big misconception is that we need to write in certain number of words. That's not true actually. That is completely wrong. In fact, once we discuss polity later on in our classes, I'll explain answer writing separately. There's also a misconception that, and I'm sure you must have heard of it, that in a 250 word answer or a 150 word answer, you can write plus minus 5 words. That is not true. You can't exceed 150 words. You exceed it, there are high chances of negative marks on that. Of course, the evaluator cannot calculate it, or he or she will not calculate. But the point is, if he or she feels that it has crossed 150 words, negative marks are given immediately. Because they can't go and sit and calculate. So it's better to write in less than 150 words. Ideal answer is 130 words. That is sufficient. It has 2 advantages. One, you don't cross the 150 word limit. Second, you save 20 words. Every question 20 words saved is ultimately 1 full question saved. The time saved can be used in writing the 20th question, because in most of the exams, for a lot of aspirants, the first challenge you will encounter is you will not be able to complete the paper. Okay, writing speed is of immense importance. So that is why saving time. Clear? Okay. So this is your pattern.
So okay, I thought that 150 is important. So the word upper limit is important.
Crossing that,
170, for example, it will be of negative consequence only, according to examiner. 130 also will be a little negative
no,
for them.
not at all. 130 is perfectly fine.
I thought the spacing should be our
Utilized.
main concern. We should not leave extra space,
No.
or we should ideally fill everything.
No,
Like that.
that is not there. That is not at all there. So need not worry on the spacing thing.
Was that also to be counted?
Actually, all 3-letter words are counted. 3-letter words and above. Okay. So writing and answer writing we can discuss in detail once you know the topics, and then we can discuss on what all things are important. But roughly this is the idea. Okay. Right now, in fact, when you start practicing writing also, don't worry on these things much. Okay. The focus should be on having a command over the subject. Once I get the command of the subject, then I can express myself. Then I can, fine tune myself. Okay. So that is the idea. Okay, now before we look on to how to choose an option and why to choose an option, etc., let me just show you the syllabus of PSIR, Political Science and International Relations. So you see, this is the first section, section A of the syllabus. So in the brochure you'll have the syllabus also, don't worry, you can get the brochure later on. So we have political theory, meaning and approaches of political theory, what is the meaning of power, what is political theory, what is political, what is theory, basic things. How do you define power? Okay, what is the meaning of this topic? Has a very good link with this topic. Okay, so roughly what exactly is power, what is hegemony, these kind of terms you should be aware of. And then come various theories of state. Okay, state, as you know, what is a state?
Country.
Then why do we call it country?
Geographical border.
Okay, geographical border. Okay, let me say, he says that state means anything which has a defined area. It has a fixed population. Then it has an organized government, and one more, 4 aspects. Sovereignty, the freedom to take decisions. 4 aspects make a state. So my point is, theories of state mean what kind of states do we have, or what kind of states have we had historically, what is a view of various ideologies about state. Sometimes states tend to revolve around a central figure like a monarch. Sometimes states tend to revolve around a central figure who possibly got hold of power somehow, a dictator. Sometimes states are based on elections, and yet the government is heavily controlled by rich and elite people, right? In our country they make all these claims that Adani ki sarkar, Ambani ki sarkar, these kind of allegations are leveled by the cute bachelor of our country, Rahul Gandhi. So this is again a perspective that state is controlled by elite people. So this is what is called a Marxist kind of approach towards looking at things. Then some people also claim that the state is patriarchal in nature. It creates situations where roles are defined based on gender. That makes the state also patriarchal. So right now, like say in a lot of countries, we did not really have the concept of, should I say, UAF, Universal Adult Franchise. It came in stages. Firstly, only rich white men got the privilege to vote. Then all the men got the privilege to vote. Then finally all the men and women got the privilege to vote. And in some countries, then all the people got the privilege to vote, meaning of different colors, like say USA. So state can also be patriarchal in nature. So that's a very feminist approach towards looking at the state, because let's say state does not really care about your internal personal space in the house. What is the dynamic of the house? State has no control over that. who is cooking food in the house, the husband or wife? State will not make all these directions, right? In the office space, possible, no discrimination, but in the house, no. But that also is kind of discrimination only. Gendered roles. Okay, so that is an approach toward looking at these things, that the care economy. You know what is care economy? So care economy means the women who are working in the household. That is called care economy. Care economy is an unpaid economy completely. There is no payment for the household work, and there is no age of retirement also. Right? Fathers retire at the age of 60, then they spend their retirement period. Mothers don't retire ever, they keep on working. Firstly for the husband, then for the child, then for the grandchild, then, right, whatever. So again, various views on how the state is, how the state treats its people. Sometimes we have liberal states also. States which uphold the rights of people, equality, civil rights, political rights to people, okay? Most Western democracies, India right now, we are all part of liberal state only. Okay, at least that's what we claim to a large extent. So that's what is covered. Then some very simple concepts, the theory of justice, John Rawls' theory of justice, Amartya Sen, equality, various types of equality. Under that, you can also have an understanding of reservation policies, which will be understood here also. Right? What exactly is a reservation? Is it really required? What kind of reservation do we have right now? The caste-based reservation by birth, is it the only way out? I mean, to ask you a simple question, I'm sure you will have your own pointers on reservation, which are not beyond bias because you are still embroiled in that. If you are getting the benefit of it, you support it. If you are not getting the benefit, you are against it. So your views are unbiased, not unbiased, they are largely biased at this point of time. My point is, let's assume for a moment that an SC person is facing atrocities, still facing atrocities, which is actually true in some cases. An SC person living in a city, does he have the same kind of atrocities come as an SC in the village? Of course not, right? An SC whose father is an IAS officer, is he facing the same problems as SC whose father is uneducated? Of course not, right? An SC whose father is IAS in a city and a general category person in a village who is poor, they also might have difference of life. So a reservation cannot be based on single criteria of caste. So now we are coming up with new models where scoring is being given based on do you belong to rural area, urban area, some score on that. Parental education, score on that. Family income, score on that. Caste, score on that. Religion, score on that. Then collectively we make a score and then say, okay, people who have crossed this score will get reservation. But again, reservation policy is very complicated in our country, and no party in power can ever tamper with it. If you want to win the election, if you decide to lose the election, then no problem, right?
China's model of reservation. They'll just give additional points in the exam.
China's model of reservation is actually an extension of the US model of reservation, which has the same kind of criteria, which is what we also want to incorporate. Some suggestions like the JNU model are along the same lines, where additional marks are being given, right, for students. In fact, in your state itself in 1995, there was a criteria set where people who wrote their paper in Telugu medium were given 5% extra marks. But then that was cancelled by Supreme Court, because in India we don't follow this kind of policy. Right? There's a very famous case, Sunanda Reddy case, where that was cancelled. Anyway, so my point is, we can have intense debate along these lines. Then democracy, various forms of democracy. What are the good things about democracy? Is democracy the only way out? Or what are the challenges with democracy? All such things. Then concept of power linked here. Then you have your political ideologies. Okay? Like you have liberalism, you have fascism, you have Marxism, you have feminism, right? So various types of ideology that exist. Once you know this, you can also debate with your friends and all, right? So this, I think, is a very important topic to understand things in general and perspectives in general. Okay, and these build a very strong foundation for almost everything in your paper. Indian society, social issues, social justice, ethics, and also your essay. Polity, I'll cover it separately. Don't worry, we'll come to that polity also. very strong foundation for every such thing. Contribution. You have a different way of presenting the idea once you read this political science. That is the advantage, right? And political ideologies in general will help you understand, grasp the perspective of how laws are being made, what is the backstory behind a law, etc. So not only is it interesting, it is also something that makes you in general more knowledgeable as a human being. Then we have two topics, Indian political thought and Western political thought. This is where you study thinkers. Okay, like in the Indian political thought, you will study about, of course, Kautilya. How can you forget Arthashastra, right? That's by far the best document ever on politics. We are still yet to beat that document. Then, of course, other people like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Okay, we'll have to cover also Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo. Okay, extremely important for nationalism. And then let's not forget Gandhiji, Ambedkar. They have to, M.N. Roy has to be covered, right? Again, you will find, and that is something which will surprise you, that we have had greater people with a way more amazing ideology and approach towards things than Gandhiji and Nehruji. But history is written by winners, right? So that is how history is presented to us. But that's in fact a good way to understand also that there were other contributors to the national movement as well. Okay, and then you can also appreciate what Sir Syed Ahmad Khan did to create a divide in the country. He is considered to be, by the left wing as an amazing Muslim scholar, etc. But then you will understand that his agenda was just the one which was used to create a further divide in the country. Anyway, in the Western political thought, we'll have the similar kind of idea on, John Locke and various people. So this would take some time to cover. These are relatively smaller. Theories of state take some time. These will take some time. Okay. This is your section A, which is pure political science. This is what you study in your graduation and post-graduation as political science. Now comes section B. And what is surprising for section B, just go through it on your own. Indian nationalism. This is a part of what you study in your GS history, modern India. Okay. Of course, the perspective is different. In GS history, you study factual things. Here you will see the application of it. Making of the constitution, your polity. Salient features, polity. Principal organs, polity. Grassroots democracy, polity, that is your local self-government. Statutory institutions, commissions, polity. Federalism, polity. So this is your entire polity syllabus. The GS paper 2 is here. Okay, and please don't fall prey to this misconception. You can freely use concepts interchangeably. Okay, in your GS answers also. The only point I'm trying to make is don't force a political science concept in your GS answer. Don't force it. If it comes naturally, use it. Okay. So freely, this is all polity. Then you have economics, a bit of economics, right? This is your GS3 economics, but very limited. Nothing conceptual. Okay. Land reforms, economic reforms, that's it. Planning, etc. Then we are back to our polity and governance. So caste, religion, ethnicity in Indian politics. So this caste you can say is Indian society, but largely party system, social movement, any kind of social movement, including your NGOs, SHGs, etc. all are covered under governance also. So this at best can be mentioned as Indian society and governance plus social justice to some extent. So this is your GS1 small part, caste, religion, etc. And this is again back to paper 2. So your 60-70% of paper 2 is done here. GS paper 2. Okay. So this is your second paper. Are you clear? Sorry, second section B of paper 1. Done. Now paper 2 has two aspects which also creates a confusion in the minds of people sometimes. Paper 2 is IR. Paper 2 is not exactly all IR. You have to study some comparative politics and state, etc., and then we move towards international relations. Clear? So the first or almost half is slightly unique. Globally, you compare various countries, what kind of system do they have. Some countries have a presidential system, some countries have a dual executive system like France, some countries like India, we have a different kind of system called a parliamentary system, right? So comparisons along those lines, what exactly works, what does not work. Then representation and participation. And just to clarify, we already have a topic called democracy here. So you have studied the basic aspects of what all types of democracies are there. Is democracy truly representative or participative or only representative? To what extent? What about the minorities who are not able to vote properly? So all these things can be reflected in your understanding here. Representation politics, participation. See, two things are there. Representation, for example, what we have is a representative democracy. We don't decide. We vote for some people. They go and decide. Participation. We directly take part in decisions like a Gram Sabha meeting. Gram Sabha is a place where we actually sit along with Gram Panchayat members. They decide with oral discussion. But is participation actually possible in large country like India, right? So all these things. And then, since you have already understood the idea of LPG reform, you know LPG reforms? So in our country, because of certain issues, mismanagement, we had to experience shortage of funds, which became known as the balance of payment crisis. And at one point of time, we had very limited forex reserve, meaning dollars, to purchase imports. 2 weeks import money was left. No money left. We had to actually physically send 6-7 tons of gold, pledge it to get money. And that is when the IMF, what is IMF, full form of IMF? International Monetary Fund. That IMF actually gave some conditions which were imposed on India, that you have to follow certain conditions which largely revolved around what is called LPG reforms. Liberalization, privatization, globalization reforms. So we moved on from the license quota inspector Raj to LPG reforms. And we have done it. Globally, what has been the situation? IMF has only one-stop solution. In any country it goes to, it gives the same logic. Open up your economy. So is globalization helpful? Of course it is helpful. But especially in today's day and age, where you see the rising levels of protectionism. What is meant by protectionism? In short, you make policies which ensure protection of your local sectors by imposing possibly import duty like tariffs, so presenting strict conditions on imports, quality checks, right? So anti-dumping duty can be imposed, some quality regulations can be placed, etc. You go to EU, European Union, they have very high quality regulations for products. Like in India, you see any kind of product full of palm oil, etc. We don't really care about all these things. We just eat. Taste is nice, we'll eat it. But not in EU. You can't sell food with palm oil. Okay, they are more health conscious and all. We don't really care. We are taste conscious. So when our food is being exported to those countries, it is very important to meet those quality checks, right? Anyway, then from here we move on to hardcore IR. This is the part which actually is IR. So various approaches to studying IR. Then you have the key concepts in IR. Okay, something as simple as realism or national interest, etc. Then the changing international political order. You know how the world is changing. Initially, we had various strong powers and a balance of power was there in the 19th century. Britain, Germany, all these were there. But then came the world wars, and post-world war from, where is that? From balance of power, we moved on to what? Okay, a bipolar world order, two poles. Then in the wake of December 91 Soviet disintegration, we suddenly became what? Unipolar, completely. There was no other country to match the US. Not only did US succeed in becoming the strongest nation, the dominant ideology of West, which was capitalism, also succeeded, because Soviet disintegration also showed one thing, that socialism is also declined. It is a failed idea, which is actually true. It is, a communism is a failed idea, but anyway. But slowly and steadily we have now moved towards striving for multipolar order. Just to clarify, there is still a debate on this. We are trying to assert a multipolar world order. Trying to. Why? Because we still see USA and US hegemony in almost everything without any question. Can an India or can a China pull off a Venezuela? Of course not. We can't even think of going to a neighboring country and taking their president away. USA did it to Venezuela. Where was the question raised? In UN? Countries boycotted USA. Sanction was imposed on US. Nothing happened. But yes, we do have rising forces like Russia and China, which do try to press for a multipolar, various power centers. India also wants to be there, right? We have African Union, which is saying that collectively we are also a power. Not single, but collectively. So that is the thing. So the shift needs to be understood. Then the evolution of the international economic system. This is where you study about, again, this is something you cover in economics also. The Bretton Woods system. Okay, so here is where you study the Bretton Woods system. And the Bretton Woods twins, IMF, World Bank. You study IMF, you study World Bank here. Then you also have to study the third pillar, WTO, clear? World Trade Organization. Here we'll also be covering what are the issues with these Bretton Woods twins, like IMF and World Bank and WTO, what kind of problems is India facing or other countries facing, both. We can separately cover this in the section B of this paper, but I'll cover here only. That all the issues related to this. Firstly, the issues with, let's say, WTO. General issues with WTO, generally, and then specific to India. Are you clear? Same goes for UN, various organs of UN, various specialized agencies of UN, including the peacekeeping missions of UN that they have. India is a contributor, huge contributor to peacekeeping mission. In fact, now we have women's peacekeeping mission also. Women take part in peacekeeping mission. India was the first country to send its women for peacekeeping mission. Again, the same thing. UN has some problems. Something that you would know. The Security Council veto power is a problem. Various countries are demanding that we should also be part of that. All will be covered here only. Then, regionalization of world politics. How world politics has become regionalized now. How various groups try to act in a collective manner and they are happy in trading with themselves. Okay. For example, you know something called the EU. Yes? European Union. Or in our neighbor, the ASEAN nations, our neighbors only. In USA also, they have NAFTA. North America Free Trade Area. Canada, USA and Mexico try to have their own free trade agreement, okay, to prevent outsiders, have a nice regional trade. So why is regional trade rising? Why have we lost faith in United Nations and WTO and the global order? That's also important to understand. These regional groups come up only because countries feel that no, we are not able to control WTO. WTO is not helping us out. Let's have trade amongst ourselves only. India has also tried it with South Asian countries called SAFTA, South Asia Free Trade Agreement. But you know very well, we have Pakistan. It has a problem with everything we do. SAFTA is a failure. Okay. Then contemporary global concerns. What are global concerns you have, be it with respect to, again, democracy, human rights, terrorism. So you see, human rights concerns, okay, gender concerns, democratic concerns, all these are already understood in detail here. We'll just link it to current context. And then terrorism, which will be covered again in your internal security, paper 3. Are you clear? Then the nuclear issue. So we'll cover nuclear issue here only. What is the nuclear issue? What was the CTBT? What is a nuclear supply group? What was the India-US civil nuclear deal? When did India conduct its nuclear tests? What is NPT? What are these nuclear states? Okay. And then what are these non-nuclear weapon states? How is India out of that group, but still other countries provide material, nuclear material to us for our civil program, not the military program. That is separate. So contemporary global concerns. You can see some topics theoretical, some interesting and modern and contextual, and also related to various GS papers. And then finally you have that IR paper, that is GS paper 2 IR. 50 marks questions in your GS paper 2 are from IR. This is it. Exactly the same. India's foreign policy, India's contribution to non-alignment, India and South Asia, you know, we will be covering our neighbors. So here we cover neighbors. India, the global south, Africa, right? Brazil, Latin America, etc. So global south refers to all these developing nations. India wants to be the voice of these developing nations. Okay. So we are focusing on south-south cooperation. Then India and the global centers of power. For example, USA, China, Russia, global centers of power. Okay. And then the India and the UN system, which we already have covered here. Issues, etc. Then India and the nuclear question, which we already have covered under this topic. Clear? Under this we have one topic of nuclear issue also, where we discuss India's point of view as well. Okay. And then finally recent developments in Indian foreign policy. So this will cover here itself. Till today, what is the foreign policy mood in the country? That is there, along with phase wise, PM wise. But here we'll cover the latest contexts. For example, currently Israel is of key importance to us, right? A country like Israel, a country like Japan, the Israel-Palestine issue. What is India's stand with respect to this issue? How is India trying to find the balance, etc. Clear? So this is your rough syllabus, and as I said, this is your entire GS2 IR. You study this, you don't need to study IR, is the idea. So this is your PSIR syllabus. Looking at the syllabus, of course, I know it sounds that this is and this is, I think, one reason why people take PSIR is because of this aspect of GS coverage. Anyway, firstly, why PSIR? So I think this is one subject that is least required to be sold to students, because the single point here is the GS overlap. This subject has the highest GS overlap, and you can very well see this from the fact that look at the marks of all the students whose option is PSIR in their GS2 paper. it is always going to be above 115-20, always. Same zone, 112, 15, 18, 20. Because you have already covered those things in depth in your PSIR. So one advantage here. Then one advantage, of course, is in your ethics paper as well. Ethics in governance helps you. Otherwise, political philosophies help you, thinkers, ideologies. Then the idea of justice, rights and equality. Those concepts are used here also. So ethics paper is a paper where people with philosophy optional, to some extent PSIR and public administration optional. These people do very well in ethics. Now the first part only. Case studies is completely your game point. So it is, we can of course train you in case studies, how to approach it and how to solve it, the format, but how to think is something you have to practice. But once you have full command over your ethics, key terminologies, etc., what is the meaning of, let's say, a term like integrity, what is ethics, what is EQ, what is crisis of conscience, whatever these terms, then it's easier to understand and solve case study. But then that is for your ethics faculty to explain to you. So GS overlap. Secondly, it is a topic which you see in the newspaper also. Highest newspaper overlap. The news is mostly about these things only, polity, IR, etc. So makes the newspaper also easy to understand. I think the only thing that is not related here is science and tech. That is missing. Even in IR you can have some elements of science and tech through weapons, etc. But normally science and tech is not a part here at all. That is separate. Otherwise you have some kind of implication on your paper 1 also, on your paper 3 also. And let's not forget essay. Most of the essays nowadays are around the philosophical topics only. So of course philosophy has a better control here, but so does PSIR, again because of your ideologies, because of thinkers. Once you have followed the Western and Indian political thought, you know a lot about these people also, who are these thinkers. You can quote them, their point of view on these aspects. This is a very wide covering topic actually. If you look at any idea of social justice in philosophy, it does involve justice in general. It does involve equality and rights for people. It does involve sometimes democracy also. The concept of power, hegemony, how to use power, etc. So it has a very wide, should I say, overlap with GS. I think that's the only reason why people choose PSIR. Also because, a lot of toppers are from this subject only. And this is by far the most popular subject which people take in the main exam also. So top 4 subjects in this order are PSIR. I'm not exactly sure, or anthro-socio. They are very close, but I'm not sure on the exact number. And then the gap here is very wide between these two. And then again a gap, and then geography. Top 4 optional so far, and then comes public administration history with a huge gap. Top 6 optionals that people are choosing who are taking the main exam as per the latest UPSC report. So I'm not sure how many are actually taking this subject, but those who appear for mains, that's our order. This is the decreasing order. So of course this is there for a reason. Same goes for socio also, and some overlap. I think socio has more overlap. Syllabus is also relatively smaller. PSIR syllabus is not small. It's not large also, but not small as well. So you'll have to put in some effort. And yes, once you cover that, the advantage is great because of the GS thing. Clear?
What is the disadvantage?
Disadvantage, we can only have it over some other subject. For example, it is not very small. So if you're looking for a very small kind of subject, this is not it. Okay. If you want a very technical kind of subject, then this is not technical. If your answer writing skills are very bad, this won't work at all. This requires answer writing. This requires writing skills, in short. See, in GS, your writing skills can be hidden. They can be covered by knowledge. You can draw flowcharts, etc. Here, writing skills are required. That's a fact. Okay, so if your writing skills are poor and you rely more on using flowcharts, diagrams, etc. to express your point of view, these kind of optionals, PSIR, sociology, are not meant for you. You have to write here. You have to be very meticulous in expressing yourself. You should know that I know this and I can express myself. When I say answer writing, I am saying the idea is, can I express myself? That's it. This option has no problem actually. The only thing it is based on is if you have the interest in it. That's the only factor which will deter you from choosing this option. If you have no interest. So, which brings me to the next and our last topic of discussion, or before the course structure, a small point. Or did I? No. Okay, then let me explain on a blank sheet only. See, one thing that you should focus on, choosing optional. Couple of things go together. Okay, of course, I don't deny that interest is not important, but interest is slightly highly overrated, I would say. Slightly highly overrated. It is overrated to an extent, yes, but yes, we can say it is highly overrated also a bit. Why? Because an optional paper requires you to build a depth over graduation under post graduation. So in any optional, there are bound to be times where things are boring. You'll have to go through that also. So full interest 100%, that's not possible. Let's say you love history a lot. You might love medieval India. For most people, medieval India is the most fun actually in part of history, right? If you start studying it properly, that's my point. But we also have ancient India. Let's not forget it. Or some of you might find modern India interesting, but let's not forget you also have ancient India, art and culture, right? How to survive that? You have to. That's the whole point. So no option can be interesting throughout, because GS is a small part of an optional. It can be fun throughout. Even a GS paper is not fun throughout. Which paper? Say ethics, for example. Ethics seems fun, but when you are studying terms and all, sometimes it can be very, very boring to just know the definition of terms, right? So every aspect of every subject may not be fun, is my point. So interest, you should have a general broad interest in that topic. For example, let's say if I hate geography, I cannot take geography optional at all, under any circumstance. Okay. So if that is the thing that or political science, polity, I hate it in GS, then I think this is not meant for you, or any such subject. But skill set is important. If you have the knack of mugging up things, etc., you can memorize things. I think every option is great, but especially options like history, etc., anthro are great for you if you can mug up things properly. If you have decent writing skills, PSIR, sociology, public administration are great options for you. If you can think outside the box, public administration is an amazing option for you. If you have the technical skills, correlation, etc., maybe a geography is a great option for you. So find out what your skill set is. That is more important. Okay, that's one thing. Then of course, you need to look at the GS overlap. It becomes easy, is all I am saying. It is not mandatory. People take maths optional and they clear the exam. My point is, if this happens, it's a great thing. If not, no problem. But this can also be a factor. Then material in the market. Classes, coaching. Taking an optional should also involve this. If you take an option which you do not have material available, or very difficult to find material, then I think it becomes a challenge from day one, right? We can't start from the point of challenge. So popular options are always easier to take. You have plenty of books available, plenty of faculty available, plenty of resources, coaching material, everything is available. So you don't have to search for sources. Clear? Now beyond this, one more factor that sometimes plays a role with respect to an optional is also the fact of looking at it from a different dimension, that in the graduation I had this subject. That could also be a factor. I am putting it at lower level because this does not normally work properly in UPSC. Why? Because a lot of people who take these optionals, especially the PSIR socio bunch, they are engineering background students with no prior knowledge of this. In fact, sometimes as a faculty for this subject, I feel this is the dangerous part. Because in your college, you have been trained into something, and shifting your thought into UPSC's bent is a challenge. So I'd prefer you have a blank slate, nothing about it. I can write everything on that. If you already have an ideology that you have developed, erasing it, writing it, again overwriting it becomes a problem. That's a bigger challenge. But yes, this helps when you have a technical optional to choose, like say civil engineering or a medical degree, etc., especially from a good college. That can help you in an amazing fashion because your conceptual clarity is complete and no issues. Clear? So these are things that should be kept in mind, and if you still are confused, please choose any one from these. Any one from these. Why I am not saying public administration is because PubAd is very difficult now. Okay, at some point I used to teach that as well because of the knowledge there, but it is difficult now. The option is difficult. There were days when PubAd was the best option for UPSC. In 2008-9 period, out of 750, 760 students, then we had two optionals. Half of them had PubAd as the optional. Half of them who cleared the exam, final merit list, had PubAd as one optional. That's how popular it was. In 2012, I think there was a huge issue with the difficulty of the paper, and then papers are now being set at various IM levels and all. A lot of research is being done on public administration. So this subject has become very difficult now. But if you can think outside the box, it's a great option to have. A lot of overlap with your polity paper that is there. Polity and ethics, it can help you. Beyond that, if you still are confused, a simple optional is history to take, or technically speaking, geography to take. But these two require different approaches, so you can find out. This is the order. If you're confused, pick any from these. Not because this coaching is providing all these things. These are the most common ones. That is why the reason why most people provide these things only. Because most students take these only. No brain is required. Pick anything and you just have to put in the effort. Right? That's the reason. This also is possible. Okay, again, but these two require different kind of perspective, so pick and choose. I would say avoid this. Difficult to score marks. I mean, of course, in 2019, the topper had PubAd option only, but we can't base our opinion on just one topper in 1 year. We have to see the consistent pattern. What about the other top 100 students? Did they take PubAd? Of course not. But just to clarify, every optional, except history, every optional has the same success rate, around 8 to 10%. Okay, so 8 to 10% people who take the optional clear the exam. That is the same. So no option has some unique advantage, just to clarify. Okay, so that is about it with respect to our way to choose an optional. The choice is yours completely. Please choose properly, and once you have decided on the optional, don't worry. Okay, that what is happening after 24 days, you are feeling bored. All these are part of the option. It's a long process. You have to stick with the same group of people, same faculty, same teaching mechanism, same book, same notes for 5-6 months. Just for the classes, and then beyond that. Okay, it's a long period of time. Course structure is very simple. We'll have around 350 to 400 hours of classes, which also includes around 18 to 25 hours of small module. This would be on IR current affairs in June-July period. Okay. Normally I do this for my previous students who I have taught, so they can access it freely. Just around small 20-hour course for all the IR updates that have happened. Till you are in the exam, follow this also. Okay. Even if they don't provide you access, I'll ask them to give you access even once you have crossed. Beyond that, I would also, if you're not a member of this organization, that is this coaching institute, you still will have to come and attend GS paper 2, that is polity and governance. That I'll get you access free of cost here, don't worry. Even if you're not a member here, that is of no concern, because that helps me teach here. That is for my ease, not for you. This is not some free offer for you, it is a free offer because of me, because I want my work to be easy when I teach this. Clear? So this is a time frame. On 20th we'll have our first few classes. So first 5 days, come sit, see how you like the subject, how you like my teaching. That's also important to know. And then we'll have our proper studies from that day only. But initially 5 days you can test it, things. Monday to Friday we have classes. Every Saturday we'll have answer writing. I have told the previous batch students also to come, so they'll also be there in the class to write answers. So this is going to be the structure. Class will range from, depending on your enthusiasm, 2.5 to 3 hours. This would be the time slot. Of course, the first 5 days we'll have 1.5 hours of class only, just to get you testing. And then this is the pattern. Monday to Friday, Saturday answer writing, that's it. Before you come to the class, nothing, don't need to do anything. The only thing you need to do is study this book from NCERT called Political Theory. This is a class 11th NCERT book. Please study this book. Okay. It has 10 chapters and that's it. Nothing else is required. If you are too enthusiastic and have free time, then study Indian Constitution at Work also. This is one more class 11th NCERT book. But this is important. This, if you feel like it, option. Okay, that's it. If you have doubts, queries, concerns, ask me.
Sir, if you are any student, optional student got transfer.
Just my option, not the coaching institute? No, he was from the coaching also. He was in the coaching and in the optional class. So somebody who just got optional, because that's not how things function. I have always been in some organizations. So people cleared from there. Like say you have taken admission in Vishnu IAS, and if you clear, I can't claim you as my student now. I can only, the institute claims you as their student. So in that case, yes. But solely my student, because I don't run a separate batch outside the coaching institute. So no, that's not the case. In my previous organizations also, I used to run the batch inside the organization. So that won't be right to claim. But now people claim anything. Recently somebody claimed that some people who had joined their free program had also cleared the exam because of their free program. We can't claim all these things, sadly. So from the coaching, yes, but from my optional, I have never done that. So I don't teach separately.
Your optional?
Yes, they have cleared in the past. Some good ranks, some average ranks, normally. That's it. You want to meet them? No. So, yes, they have, but I mean, anybody in top 20, 30, no, not really. That does not just depend on this, it depends on other factors also, right? That depend on other factors, and especially see if you teach somebody 2-3 years back and then they clear the exam, can you really take credit for their performance? I don't know. So somebody who took a course in 2019, cleared exam in 2022-23 with her one of the top ranks, Should we claim their success? I don't think it is right. Okay, the base was built, but then they did a lot of self-study also. So I think let's not claim their success. That is their own success. And this is what is happening nowadays. People are clearing the exam initially, get a lower rank, and then they take the exam again and they improve their rank. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on should you honestly claim their success. No, it is their own success. It's okay. Let them enjoy it. Any other doubt beyond this?
Regarding a year, we have to follow all the years until we clear the...
No. Don't be crazy for following every update. Yesterday, Iran bombed some radar. Note, not required. Don't worry. We see, if you see the paper also, you'll understand that it requires you to have a perspective, a modern day perspective on India's foreign policy. How is India's approach towards this, and what is the global perspective today? That is why the issue that you have to differentiate between is current affairs and contemporary events. You need to know contemporary events in the last 5-10 years, what has happened. Okay, and this happens everywhere. So I just showed you a question. I think I got stuck there for some point. Political science paper. So let's say, forget this. This is something that you can't understand right now. This is something you will know. See, delineate the key factors that have shaped the evolving political landscape in J&K post 2019. Post 2019 changes that were made, what has happened or what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir right now. This is a polity type question only. It's a contemporary event question. Okay, not what happened in the last 1 year. In the last 5-6 years. Look at the broad coverage of this question. Okay, so don't go crazy for day-to-day activities. Broadly, I should be aware of India's stand perspective everywhere. Okay, how far has NHRC been successful in achieving its objectives? This is, in fact, you will be surprised that the GS question on NHRC sometimes is more difficult than the PSIR question. That is true. In fact, nowadays the GS paper questions in paper 2 are difficult compared to the question in your optional. Okay. So, parliamentary committees. What is this? Advisory jurisdiction. I think this was in news because President had sought advice from the Parliament, from the Supreme Court. Article 143. Then federalism, women's participation in local governance. Enunciate the impediments to women's participation in local governance. In 2019, they had asked a question in GS paper, which was way more difficult than this question. This is a more straightforward question, right? So sometimes you will feel that PSIR is easier, the polity part, than your GS part, especially nowadays, because in prelims, polity is very easy. So in mains, they compensate for it. I don't know what they're doing. That is how it is. Okay. So political parties, what kind of role have they played? This, why I say this is easy is because you know all these things. If I show you something here, you might find it difficult. Explain the slogan, personal is political. This is a feminist slogan. Personal is political, meaning your personal life that you have inside your house is also political only. Because there also the same dynamics of male, female, the gender bias plays. Dual responsibility. You know what is dual responsibility? That work-home balance. So when you work, a woman working woman, when she comes back home, she still has to take care of the family. Husband comes home, dinner should be ready at 8 p.m. That is required. That is called the personal is political. Everything is political.
Nowadays it is a little bit balanced.
In cities, in metros, in few families.
In general, at least there is a voice of
Sharing the work.
there is a voice of what do you say? Counter voice of dissent from the one
On social media. Definitely. You are getting your opinion from social media because that is what we are exposed to, which is true. Things are changing. The pace is slow.
voice of resistance at least.
Yes, and it is right only. But all I'm saying is that this still exists. And like say casteism, it does not exist in cities majorly, but please go to India, lives in villages. Let's not forget that ever. When you move to a village, you realize it immediately. That everything exists. Forms change, right? The way you showcase caste divide changes, but those things exist. Yes, it is coming down drastically. Sometimes you see that male also are at the receiving end of the issue. That's also there. That Atul Subhash case, how can you forget that case? But those are smaller events. It's like, women in cities know their rights. They sometimes misuse their rights. SCs in the cities, educated, know their rights. They sometimes misuse their rights. But majority of the SCs in rural areas are still facing some discrimination. Majority women are still not able to exercise full right over their life. So we discuss things based on majority only, not based on exceptions. So even if 5% things are changing, that's very small, right? And that is what is changing, 5-10%. But because you are educated, you view social media at daily basis, so you feel, oh, this is the world. This is not the world. This is the very small few educated minority in the country who are sitting in Bangalore or Hyderabad, in your city itself. The high-tech city side is different from this side, right? This is your city and you have complete divide on way of life. I know it because I'm an outsider. I can see that divide. So imagine the entire country now. Forget the big cities, small cities have the same problem. But anyway, that is how it is. Discussions, these topics evoke discussion. That's why I said technicality might not work here. We'll have to look at debates and discussions.
Is it 350-400 hours for a race like this? Is that enough, sir?
Sorry?
350-400 hours is enough for
That will be enough. We will be covering it under. So it will be a mix of handouts also. For example, UN. I won't make you write the 5 bodies of UN and 6 bodies of UN. I'll give you a handout that these are the functions. I'll explain the handout, but that will be, so it saves time also. Whatever is the time that is required is to write only. That takes most time. Sometimes you save time by giving you handouts on written notes. That's it. That is sufficient.
Sir, you mentioned that skill. Skill means you have the grip on subject of quality.
No, skill means what is your innate skill. For example, are you somebody who is okay expressing themselves properly? If let's say I know something, some people have this problem. They know it, but I can't express it. It's like, that is a lack of expression. You just can't express it. So that becomes a lack of skill. Sometimes some people can read, can understand, but if you ask them to mug up facts, they say, no, I can't mug up and all. That is not my skill. That's a skill. So if you can't mug up facts and all, then history is not a point for you. Anthro could be very challenging for you. It depends on how many facts you can mug up. Okay. If you don't have the technical skill of correlation, understanding, etc., then geography is not an optional for you. So that is why these are very standard. So if you need any kind of skill in PSIR, that is the answer writing thing, that I can express myself properly. That's it. Otherwise, these 3 optionals, or frankly, these 2 optionals, they don't need any kind of skill. Why do you think people take these optionals? Oh, acha, that was gone. So, PSIR and sociology, they don't need any skill actually. Anthro primarily would require some mugging up and all, but PSIR socio need no skill at all. Neither teaching nor learning, don't worry. No, they don't need any kind of special skill set. That's why the most people take as an option based on this reason only. You don't need to have some background on that. Okay.
Is writing skill developed or we need already?
Writing skill, see, of course, you can differentiate between writing skill which is developed and which is not developed. But we will focus on that, and we'll try to develop the writing skill as much as we can. Right? So a good way is to start slowly by just basic writing of small paragraphs, etc. Because see, there are 2 things that, or one major issue that people have. I know the topic, but how to write? Though which is a very weird question to ask. Why? Because in your entire school days you have done this only, writing answers. But still somehow this is on the back of our mind that this must be different. It is not. Number 1. Number 2, even if it is, we'll build on it, right? So writing skill can be developed, but of course somebody who has the natural flair for writing, I'll be honest, we can't match that because the time is just 1-2 years. If you have to give 6 years, of course. See, even if you today go and mug up the entire dictionary, can you immediately match Shashi Tharoor's English? Of course not. That fellow has developed his language through entire 60 years. How can you match it by mugging up some books in 5 months or 1 year? So natural flair cannot be beaten, but for most people, they don't have the basic skill of answer writing. So they practice and they improve, and that is sufficient. That is why don't promise yourself I'll get the first rank. That is not in your hands. Getting a rank is in your hands. Some people come with this task that, sir, I have to ask a very sincere question, how to get rank 1? Now, how do you respond to that? Nobody knows. The rank 1 had no idea till yesterday that he or she would be rank 1. It is a surprise for them also. So the idea is to get a rank, and for that answer writing is important. It is key and it can be built as a skill. That's my point. Okay.
So paper 2 is mostly
If new things come up, you'll have to follow it. For example, even this part is not the dynamic, but in globalization also, some new things keep on coming up. That is not dynamic.
we have to be in update.
But you are studying current affairs anyway for your GS papers also. That will be sufficient to know the topic that is in news, and then here elaborate on the topic. So if it is the case that you don't read the newspaper at all, then there could be a problem. They might ask you some current question, some term that they are using currently in news, which you have no idea about. So that could, even if you know the basic information, if the term is something you don't know, then how to write about it? Right? That could be a problem. So for example, I know everything about justice and gender debate and racial crimes, etc. But if I don't know something called Black Lives Matter, what the hell is that? Black Lives Matter? Every life matters. And I start writing like this. That's the problem. Even though I know everything about equality and rights and justice, but I should know the term also. What context was it being used in? So that is the current part. Rest of the answer is the static part. So in the dynamic papers, the answer is a combination of some current event plus the static portion. Okay, so we have to be up to date, not daily, as I said, making notes every half an hour. Okay, open the news and see something happened and then run to make the notes. That's not required. But yes, this is more dynamic as a paper compared to, say, this paper. Even this is somewhat dynamic. You might just like the 2019 thing. We can call it dynamic only. In the last 5 years, whatever has happened, it's contemporary events. It cannot be called static portion at all. This is completely static. This is a mix of static dynamic. This is half static, then largely static with some dynamic changes. This is combination of static and dynamic, because static is required. Base of every relationship is set. India-Japan or India-Israel base is set. On top of it, new layers are being added. So you have to know the base and then keep on updating with the layer. That's why this is required actually. That's why we take this. This is outside this. Okay, separately this happens. Okay. Any other doubt, query, concern? Please tell me. No doubts? Great. So that's all. Do you have some other orientation?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So let's meet later on. At some point of time we will. Yes. So tell me, sir.
On the normal level, we should have a little bit more awareness of the news, current affairs or newspaper for this subject.
No. What you should have knowledge of is the base. Your basic knowledge has to be way more than the current affairs knowledge. That is the idea. I mean, see, if let's say today, for example, India has signed an MOU with Israel on some topic, or say India recently signed a free trade agreement with European Union, the mother of all deals. Everybody has the same information on that, and that's the current information that can be asked in the GS paper also. But what has been the backstory like for India and European Union? When did the relationship start? How does it impact other kind of groupings that we have? Does it really impact ASEAN trade also? Does it have any effect on, say, India-US relations? This is a perspective you only can have. So rather than dynamic, the static portion command is more important. Okay, and that is how you correlate also. Once you have a command with a static portion, you don't need to follow news every day. You realize it. That even if you just glance across the news, you will know what is happening, because you know every backstory. Are you clear? So static is more important, the backstory for an optional student. Clear? Okay. That's all for me. Let's meet again. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Oh wait, we have some long question. Okay. Leela has 5, 6. I think I have mentioned most of them. So for thinkers, we have around 15-20 of them, and don't worry, it's very easy to remember them. Don't panic at all. Thinkers is not a problem. It's very easy to remember them through stories. Update daily our notes. As I said, for IR, I think I mentioned daily update is not required of your notes until unless something big has happened. We don't need to update our notes. Answer writing, yes, if you have the interest, I think we will take some answer writing classes and develop that skill slowly and steadily. Now we'll have to see, before I make any assessment on how good or bad you are, I need to see some answer you write. So every person has some answer writing skill, right? You have written those answers in school and college. In the college you have filled up pages after pages to get marks. So you can write. The point is writing what is required for the exam. So primarily come for the class, take a few answer writing things, write small paragraphs. Let's say we discuss a topic on, say, possibly India-Israel issue. Without referring to notes, write about India-Israel issue. Or maybe today we discuss, say, the idea of sovereignty or democracy. What is meant by democracy for you? What is meant by voting behavior, right? Why is voting required? No need to refer to AI or maybe some class notes, just what you feel like. 50 words only, small paragraph. So you can express yourself. Once you start expressing yourself, then I'll correct you that what exactly was required to be written in that topic and not. And then finally what we can do is, we can then progress to writing the PYQs, stage by stage. So I can understand I can't mug up. Great, then if you can't mug up, then forget some options like history and all. Then these are the options left for you. Firstly, sit for the classes, not just one, sit for various optional classes. See how the classes go, see how the subject is, see how the faculty is. Today it's a competitive market. You have demo classes everywhere. Why should you directly put all the eggs in one basket? See multiple classes. There is no harm, no foul. Sit for the classes, see how the classes go, see how you like the subject. Do you have interest in the subject or not? Because ultimately the effort must be put from your side, right? As we say, you can only take the horse to the pond. You can't make it drink. So I can take you to the pond, but you'll have to drink on your own. That's the point. Okay guys, online and offline, let's meet again. That's all for me. Jai Hind.